The inflation rate is low, this is true, but the question is whether this is a dangerous level which the inflation rate has achieved. The ECB has already lowered interest rates in November last year, currently there is no reason to do more, in my view, because this is not deflation. What we are experiencing is a low inflation rate, mainly driven by the adjustment process in the peripheral countries, which are in the process of disinflation. So this is not a bad sign, it is a good sign. Quantitative easing is an instrument which has been used by other central banks. The ECB has its own approach, has its own toolkit, and has provided liquidity to the banking system. So in my view, there is no need for quantitative easing. Quantitative easing is not a miracle instrument, and it has received some prominence because it was practiced by the Federal Reserve and by the Bank of England and by the Bank of Japan. But you have to consider that continental Europe is based on a bank-based financial system and not on a market-based. So it is more appropriate to use this tool in a market-based financial system like in the United States. It doesn't make sense, in my view, to adopt instruments which are not appropriate for the circumstances we live in Europe. I oppose to this instrument because it was not, in my view, it was not a monetary policy instrument, but a quasi-fiscal policy instrument to give other member states in the euro area more room in order to refinance their budget. So it is not a monetary policy instrument, and the ECB in the end has made these interventions conditional on structural reforms and fiscal consolidation. In my view, this is not in line with the mandate. The ECB cannot impose any conditionality on individual member states and make its own instruments and its own operations conditional on the behavior of third parties. The new government, the new Japanese government, has imposed on the Bank of Japan certain measures, so more or less the Bank of Japan has lost its independence of political influence and just follows the strong advice provided by the government. Central banks have expanded or extended their mandate. This is in particular true for the ECB, which has extended its mandate to play the role as a lender of last resort for governments, but also to play a more important role in the context of financial stability. This is a risky endeavor. It is a risky procedure because in the end the main goal, namely to achieve price stability over the medium term, and the instruments available in order to achieve this can be blurred. We have seen the fact that the responsibilities between finance ministries or treasuries on the one hand and the central banks have been blurred. We have to get back to a clear separation of responsibilities. First, deflation is seen as a danger by some market participants, but in particular by journalists. So the ECB does not see this danger currently. We live in a phase of benign disinflation. This is a difference, so we should not confuse the different terms. Deflation, the term deflation should be used very carefully. It is a downward spiral in wages, a downward spiral in prices and in economic output. This is not the case, and I don't see this danger. Again, as far as the sustainability of economic growth is concerned, what is urgently needed is not to come to a halt with the structural reforms. Structural reforms in the labor market, in the pension systems, but also in product market, in the services industry, they are key to foster potential growth, which will also help to reduce unemployment.